episode of Star Wars Lore ASMR, a series where we pick a topic in Star Wars and dive deep into it while doing ASMR with various items related to that topic. Today, we're doing a lore video about the Old Republic, particularly sort of an intro to it and a full timeline of the era. So just some general reminders before we begin. There will be spoilers on any part of Star Wars, including movies, shows, books, comics, and games. Although, since this is Old Republic, there probably won't be much in the way of movie or show spoilers. I just wanted to throw that in there just in case. But, there's going to be no Obi-Wan spoilers or anything like that in this video. And then normally I say this series is canon only, but this is our first legend video. So this content is almost entirely legends. All stories and characters are not in Star Wars canon or the main timeline, with some minor exceptions here and there. Okay, so now I'll give a brief overview of the items we have. So actually, let's just start. First and foremost, we have a 6-inch Black Series action figure in the Archive collection. This is, of course, Darth Revan, a key player in the Old Republic era that we'll definitely be talking about in this video. So there's that. Set that aside for a moment. We have the Book of the Sith, which I actually just did a video on. It was the last video on the channel, and in particular, it has some references to a lot of Old Republic stuff, like here's Malgus's notes and everything. So, thought that was very relevant. And then we have Revenge of the Sith DVD for, honestly, no real reason, other than it has the word Sith in it, and it's kind of vaguely related, but I wanted to have it in this video, and I bought a bunch of the movies on DVD for the videos, so there's that, even though it's not really related. We have this, which I'm trying to get some items that are like common to all videos, and I thought maybe this would be cool. So like this can be like a recurring thing. So there's like a little Star Wars placard type thing. I think it's actually meant to stick on. So maybe if this doesn't make the greatest of noises in and of itself, I can stick it on something that makes better noises. I don't know. We have a lightsaber. No one's in particulars. It's just a very silly lightsaber. It kind of makes a bunch of neat noises. large action figures. So this is one of the troopers, particularly in the era of the Old Republic MMO. What a lot of the Republic troopers look like. And like the Havoc troopers. And then finally, I just have some printouts of dubious quality. That are mostly just for paper noises. And I'll put pictures on screen if necessary, if the quality is not great. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I think let's maybe just start with the Star Wars logo. It's kind of got like the more muted and kind of more tappy sound, so let me know what you guys think. The only thing that kind of sucks is it's small, so I have to hold it up. But anyways, the cornerstone of the Old Republic era is 3 video games: Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Wars, and Star Wars, The Old Republic. The first 2 are RPG games that came out in the mid-2000s, and the last is a MMORPG that came out in the early 2010s and has been receiving steady updates for the past decade or so. There are also tons of comics and books that explore thousands of years of events, and the whole era is extremely rich in lore and storylines. Also, just as a side note, I might be slightly biased towards the Old Republic and its era, especially the MMO, because that game, when it came out in 2011, is what really got me totally hooked on Star Wars. So there's kind of a lot of nostalgia there for me. Anyways, the point of this video is to not do a deep dive into any particular event or character, but rather summarize and explain the overall events of the Old Republic era. So this is almost going to be like a primer for future lore videos that will focus on more in-depth, on specific content. So whether you're super familiar with this era or not at all, you should be able to orient yourself in the time period and understand the timeline with a pretty good idea of everything that happens after watching the video. So I guess jumping in, the first question, what exactly is the Old Republic era? Well, it's a lot of different things, but it has tons of sub-eras within it. But the general theme is that it's a time period many thousands of years before the movies, in which there is regular, large-scale war between the Republic and Empire, and by extension, the Jedi and the Sith. makes it, in my mind, so incredible. Don't get me wrong, I love the era of the Skywalker Saga, but the combatants are limited to, Republic versus Separatist, with only a handful of Sith, or the Empire versus the Rebels, again with only a handful of Sith, or Jedi. Nowhere else, other than the Old Republic, do you get full, all-out, galactic scale war between the Republic and the Empire, with literally thousands of Jedi Knights and Sith Lords across the galaxy, battling it out. Anyways, the era and the actual lore spans something like 25,000 years, ranging from ancient empires to the emergence of the Jedi and Sith, to all-out conflict and reorganization of the Sith Empire many times over the course of millennia. And finally, before we jump into the timeline, I wanted to mention that, unfortunately, the Old Republic has been decanonized, so it's no longer canon. But there are a number of references within canon works to the Old Republic, so we at least know that in canon the era exists. For example, references to the Great Hyperspace War that we'll talk about soon. But, all the details aren't canon. And then there's name drops of characters in canon works like Revan. But again, the details of his life aren't canon, so we'll see how canon progresses. And maybe one day we'll get proper canonized Old Republic content. One can hope. So, we're gonna start in about 30,000 BBY. BBY means before the Battle of Yavin, meaning 30,000 years before the events of Star Wars Episode 4. So, yeah, going way back here. A species called the Rakata, which I believe I have a picture of. Here they are. Here's the Rakata. They're a little goofy looking, but they rule the galaxy in what is known as the Rakata Infinite Empire. They were extremely strong in the Force, particularly the dark side, and can use the Force to power machinery. However, they were just as cruel as they were powerful, and they enslave massive portions of the galaxy. And then, funnily enough, in 36,000 BBY, before the Infinite Empire was founded, the Rakata themselves were also slaves, and they overthrew their masters to get where they are. So, I guess, they didn't really learn anything from their past, and became just like their space station known as the Star Forge, a factory powered by the dark side that could produce warships and other tools of war. This will become relevant later. They also try to enslave the Sith species on Korriban, and the Sith do manage to drive them off, but their world is ravaged and left desolate. So the Sith relocate to a planet called Ziost. I'll talk about the Sith species a bit more in a moment, but I just wanted to mention, for those that don't know, the Sith Lords and the Sith species are not necessarily the same thing. So this is a member of the Sith species. They're red-skinned, tentacled beings that are strong in the dark side, but they are not necessarily Sith Lords. However, they are where Sith Lords get their name from, and we'll talk about that soon. So that's the Sith species, with homeworld of Korriban, and Korriban will come up a lot more, and Ziost a little bit too. Anyways, around 25,000 BBY, the Infinite Empire began to fracture, and its collapse was greatly accelerated by a deadly plague that harmed their connection to the Force, followed by slave revolts across the galaxy. You know, I guess what comes around goes around. Or is it goes around, comes around? I don't know. And the Infinite Empire was destroyed by their slaves, as they did before. After the fall of the Rakata Empire, the humans of a planet called Coruscant and the surrounding core worlds of the galaxy formed the Galactic Republic in 25,053 BBY. They also reverse engineer the Rakata hyperdrive technology, allowing them to explore and expand across the galaxy. The Republic, as they expanded and explored, encountered the Jedi Order on Ossus. Now I'll pause for a second and give a brief history on how the Jedi came to be. In 36,000 BBY, even before the Infinite Empire, ships of Force-sensitive beings arrived on the planet Tython, and the Jedi Order is formed. That is Jedi, not Jedi. It's spelled J-E apostrophe D-A-I-I. They studied the Force and sought to achieve balance between the light side and the dark side. Eventually, though, many years later, in 25,793, that's 25,793 BBY, they finally splintered into followers of the light and followers of the dark, and the Force Wars ensued. The followers of the dark side were defeated and exiled, and the victors formed the Jedi Order. That's properly spelled Jedi now, swearing to abide by the light side and to use their powers for good and to keep peace. Also, the Jedi Order moved to the planet Osis because Tython, the original planet, was ravaged by the war. So anyways, back to the Republic meeting the Jedi. The Jedi agree to protect the Republic and be the defenders and peacekeepers of the galaxy. The following many thousand years are characterized by general peace, prosperity, and expansion for the Republic and the Jedi, with a few eras of conflict sprinkled in. The first Great Schism occurred in 24,500 BBY, when a group of Jedi wanted to study the dark side, which led to, again, war and their eventual destruction. Also, in 22,800 BBY, the planet Ilum is discovered and becomes a sacred location for the Jedi, which, if you remember from the Clone Wars, it's where the younglings go to get their kyber crystals and build their first lightsaber. The period from 20,000 to 17,018 BBY is known as the Great Manifest Period, as the Republic spreads, but it ends when conflict erupts because the planet Alsacan challenges Coruscant's title as the capital. There were a whopping 17 Alsacan conflicts from then until 3017 BBY, but as time went on, they got less and less brutal and were mostly considered minor diversions, not really worth mentioning. Anyways, fast forwarding about 10,000 years here, through a period where conflicts are generally small and not far-reaching or important to galactic history, we find ourselves in the critical time of 7,000 BBY. Here, we get the second Great Schism, again, where the Jedi begin studying the dark side and eventually splinter into a group of dark Jedi. The ensuing conflict is known as the 100-Year Darkness. The Dark Jedi are defeated once again. However, the survivors discover Korriban and its inhabitants, the Sith, in 6900 BBY. The Sith species was extremely force-sensitive and inclined to the dark side. And like I said before, eventually, dark side tradition and its users became known as the Sith, regardless of whether they were part of the Sith species. The Dark Jedi came to rule the Sith Empire continues to grow until 5000 BBY, which marks the start of the Great Hyperspace War and the beginning of millennia of conflict between the Republic and the Empire. Two explorers, known as Gav and Jory, stumble upon Korriban just as the death of a great Lord of the Sith, known as Marka Ragnos, was occurring. The events that followed resulted in Naga Sadow being crowned the new Dark Lord of the Sith, and he launched a massive invasion of the Republic by following Jory's ship using a homing beacon. Naga Sadow was eventually defeated after he was betrayed by one of his own, and the Sith Empire was left in ruins. Again, just to reiterate, obviously the actual history is a bit more complex, but I just kind of want to give you guys a timeline, an overview of the whole era, and I'll do specific videos on, for example, Naga Sadow later. Anyways, one survivor of the Great Hyperspace War, known as Darth Vitiate, would have an extremely vital role to come. Born in 5113 BBY with the name Tenebrae, as a member of the Sith species and extremely powerful on the dark side, he conquered his own planet of Miradras at the age of 13 and was named Lord Vitiate. In 4999, 1 year after the Sith defeat during the Great Hyperspace War, Lord Vitiate took control of the remnants of the Sith, and on the planet Nathema, he conducted a ritual that killed everyone on the planet, including all of the Sith, giving him all of their power and making him immortal. He then declares himself Sith Emperor and establishes the new capital of the Sith Empire to be on the jungle planet of Dromund-Kaas. The Emperor then spends 1,000 years building his armada and Sith army to seek revenge on the Republic and the Jedi. For the next 1,000 years or so, there aren't any major Republic versus Empire clashes, but there are a few instances of fallen Jedi and clashes with the dark side that preempt the war, or the wars to come, I should say. In 4400 BBY, Friedan Nad was a Jedi Padawan that encountered Naga Sadow's spirit and turned to the dark side, setting up his role on the planet Onderon. After he dies, his spirit lives on, and he continues training his followers. In 4250 BBY, the Third Great Schism occurred, when a group of Jedi fell to the dark side, After fighting on Coruscant, forced the Dark Jedi to retreat. They found ancient weaponry in the Voltar system. They attempted to use it, but ended up destroying themselves and the entire system. From 4000 to 3950 BBY, we have a period known as the Old Sith Wars. This includes the Mandalorian Wars, the reemergence of the Sith Empire, the Jedi Civil War, and the Dark Wars. The latter two wars were the focus of the games Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2. So I think maybe now is a good time to take out Revan. To kick it all off, in 4000 BBY, two Jedi, Ulic Geldromo and Exar Kun, fall to the dark side, while the Jedi are attempting to cleanse Freedon Nad from Onderon. The two end up joining forces, with Kun as the Sith Master, and Exar Kun is able to defeat Mandalore the Indomitable, granting them control of the Mandalorian armor. Mandalorian armory. Mandalorian army. They ravage the galaxy together, but Ulic ends up killing his own brother, and he's so distraught that he returns to the light side. And later, he is able to defeat and kill Exar Kun. This is known as the Great Sith War, and it takes place over the course of a year in 3996 BBY. Mandalore the Ultimate comes to power, and if you know anything about the Mandalorian people, they are extremely war-oriented culture with glory and conquest on the forefront of their mind. He began amassing a huge army and preparing for war against the Republic. To add to this, Mandalore the Ultimate was swayed by agents of the Sith Empire who encouraged him to attack the Republic. And the Mandalorian Wars began in 3976 BBY. At first, the fighting was limited to the Outer Rim and didn't really have much of an effect on the Republic. But in 3964, the Mandalorians invaded the Republic in a devastating attack. Jedi Knights, Revan and Malik, going against the wishes of the Jedi Order, to not intervene in the conflict, join the fight against the Mandalorians. They defeat Mandalore the Ultimate and end the Mandalorian Wars. And shortly after, they set out to find the source of the Sith manipulation of Mandalore the Ultimate. discover the Sith Empire and the Emperor, and are corrupted by the Emperor, falling to the dark side and becoming Darth Revan and Darth Malak. The Emperor sends them to find the Star Forge, the ancient Rakata weapon I mentioned earlier, to use against the Republic. However, Revan then declares himself Dark Lord of the Sith, and in 3959 BBY attacks the Republic with the massive Sith fleet that the Emperor had been preparing for centuries. Revan takes control of Korriban, the ancient homeworld of the Sith, and nearly defeats the Republic. However, a surprise attack, a surprise Republic attack, combined with the unrelated but simultaneous betrayal of Darth Malak, nearly kills him. He's rescued by the Jedi, but his memory was entirely wiped, so they retrained him as a Jedi in an attempt to combat Malak, who was ravaging the Republic and the Jedi Order. And that's, of course, when the game begins, when you're being retrained. In the final battle of the war, Revan is finally able to kill Malak aboard the Star Forge, destroy the station, and scatter the fleet in 3956 BBY, ending the Jedi Civil War. Several years later, in 3954, Darth Traya founds the Sith Triumvirate, consisting of herself, Darth Nihilist, Darth Nihilus, and Darth Scion, as well as hundreds of other Sith. They are able to unite the scattered Sith kingdoms, and once again wage war on the Republic and the Jedi. The first Jedi Purge begins, and the Triumvirate kills almost every single Jedi in the galaxy. But Darth Scion and Darth Nihilus betray their master Darth Traya and banish her. The actual plot is quite complex and probably needs a whole video, but I'll just say that a Jedi who was exiled from the Order because of her role in the Mandalorian Wars manages to regrow her connection to the Force, as well as the Jedi Order, and defeats all three members of the Triumvirate, which is, of course, the plot of KOTOR 2, Knights of the Old Republic 2. From there, in the year 3950 BBY, the Sith Empire is finally destroyed by its own infighting and collapses entirely. his forces killed. Also around this time, Revan was haunted by his past and fall to the dark side. So he began to seek out the Sith Emperor. He was eventually captured while attempting to assassinate the Emperor and was imprisoned for centuries. So anyways, from here we have almost 300 years without conflict between the Sith Empire and the Republic, as both rebuild and reorganize after the devastating period of the 3900s. Then, 300 years after the old Sith Wars, in 3681, the Sith Empire and Emperor, having finished rearming, launched a massive attack against the Republic and starts off a war that would last 28 years, known as the Great Galactic War. The original cinematic trailers for Star Wars: The Old Republic are about this war, and they're absolutely incredible. I highly recommend that you watch them. So at the top here, the trailer titled Return is about the Empire's initial invasion and capture of Korriban, and shows Darth Malgus, one of the leading Sith, in the early years of the war. The trailer titled Hope is later in the war and shows the Battle of Alderaan and an Empire defeat, including how Darth Malgus got his signature mask. So that's Malgus. I'll probably put this picture on screen. And then here we have Satil Shan, one of the descendants of Revan. And finally, the trailer Deceived shows the sacking of Coruscant and the Jedi Temple at the end of the war, which I'll explain in a moment. Even if you have no interest in playing the game, I cannot recommend watching these 3 cinematic trailers enough. It's some of the only all-out war cinematic content between the Republic and Empire that we have. And it's, brilliantly choreographed. The CGI is fantastic, especially considering, when these came out. And it's just a ton of fun. And, there's really no other, Sith versus Jedi content, except for fan-made stuff, which there is a good amount of that I've watched, but as far as official stuff, this is some of the only content that there is where you can really see Jedi versus Sith Lords on a large scale. Anyways, like I said, the war lasted 28 years and ravaged the galaxy. But surprisingly, the Empire asked for peace. This was all a deception. And while peace negotiations were happening on Alderaan, Malgus and a group of Sith attacked Coruscant, sacking the Jedi Temple. And that's what this Deceived is about. This gave the Republic no leverage in the negotiations. And after the treaty was signed, the Empire, I don't know why I keep wanting to say Emperor instead of Empire, and vice versa. But after the treaty was signed, the Empire had control of half the galaxy. Korriban would serve as the training ground for the Sith, and Drummond Gas would be the capital, as it was before. The period after this, from 3653 to 3640 BBY, was basically a Cold War between the Republic and the Empire. And it's when the Old Republic MMO begins, and all of the different storylines take place. During this time, there's some limited skirmishing and border struggles, as well as minor run-ins between the Republic and Empire, and the two factions constantly trying to undermine each other. But generally, there is no large-scale war. Eventually, after the 12-year Cold War, the Treaty of Coruscant falls apart, and large-scale conflict begins again, with fighting across the galaxy resuming. The conflict was thought to have been put to an end when a Jedi Knight had killed the Emperor, but unknown to the rest of the galaxy, that was only the Emperor's voice. Additionally, as usual, within the Sith Empire, the power vacuum led to many factions vying for power, and even more conflict, and battlefronts erupted. After the Emperor's supposed death, Darth Malgus, who had been disillusioned by the constant infighting of the Sith and the Dark Council, attempted to take control. He was fairly successful at first, but eventually was overthrown and thought to have been killed by a joint force. This left the Republic with a definite advantage in the ongoing war. In 3638, however, the Empire evened the scales when they acquired a powerful material called Isotope 5 from the hot world Makeb, as it was being destroyed from mining. The next year, in 3637, as the war continued, the Imperials sacked Tython, the same time that the Republic sacked Korriban. Both planets were left heavily damaged, but do return to the correct side. In that same year, two unlikely allies, a Sith Lord named Lana Beniko and a Republic spy named Theron Shan, highest level. Revan's return. Remember this guy. Remember before how I said he was imprisoned for centuries after trying to kill the Empire. Cultists following Revan had infiltrated both the Republic and the Empire, creating massive battles across the galaxy. Because Revan believed the Emperor to still be alive and wanted to draw him out. A joint Republic and Imperial force were able to defeat Revan. However, the Emperor spoke once more and had in fact returned. The Republic and Empire both sent forces to the planet Ziost to attempt to eliminate him. However, they were all driven mad and used to fuel the Emperor's power. After an unsuccessful final attempt to stop him, the Emperor claimed all life on the planet, the same as he did more than a millennia ago. In 3636, the Emperor was tracked to wild space, where a Sith Lord known as Darth Mar was attacked and brought before the ruler of the Eternal Empire, called Valkorion. Darth Mar immediately recognized that Emperor Valkorion was a new host body of the Sith Emperor. Mar was killed, and Valkorion tried to recruit Mar's ally, called the Outlander, but the Emperor himself was ultimately killed. Well, his physical form was killed. Valkorion would continue to live on in Force Ghost form, speaking to the Outlander and trying to get them to use his power. Arkin, Valkorion's son, took power and blamed the Outlander for the attack, and the Eternal Empire attacked the Sith Empire and Republic. So here is the Eternal Fleet. The Eternal Empire easily defeated the Empire and the Republic, who were weakened by years of war, until the Outlander was eventually freed by Lana Beniko, and they started the Alliance, a joint Republic and Imperial force to oppose the Eternal Empire. The Outlander became the Alliance commander, and if it's not obvious, the Outlander is basically the player. So they're kind of vague because they use vague words like the Outlander or the Alliance commander because it's like make your own character, species, class, all that stuff. So they kind of use vague-ish terms. But I'm not sure. Like you could technically make Revan whoever you want. But like in canon, there's one Revan, so maybe at some point in the future they'll sort of solidify like who this person was, outside of like the player's choice. Or did I say in canon? In the main Legends timeline, I should say. Okay, anyways, Archon was eventually defeated. However, his sister, Valen, took the throne and ended up being even more tyrannical. After much more bloodshed, she was defeated by the Alliance commander when she attacked the Alliance base on Odessa. In 3630, the Alliance commander took control of the Eternal Throne, and at that moment, Valkorion made his return to seize power once again, but ultimately was defeated after an intense battle. Thus, Valkorion, also known as the Sith Emperor, also known as Vitiate, also known as Tenebrae, was finally killed. Probably. There's no mention of his return yet, but you never know with these things, and the Old Republic story is still being expanded upon, but he's probably dead. After the defeat of the Eternal Empire, with no common foe, the Empire and the Republic eventually resumed their age-old conflict. And on top of that, a third party infiltrated the Alliance and destroyed most of the fleet and its infrastructure. So, we're kind of back where we started. Empire versus Republic, which is generally how these things go. The galaxy is very cyclic. Sort of a cyclic fight between light and dark. Malgus returned in 3628 BBY, and conflict erupted on the planet Ossus. Malgus seemingly fights for the Empire, despite his grievances with how it was run earlier. Later, in 3626, Darth Malgus strikes down Sith and Jedi alike to obtain a holocron, which is featured in another cinematic trailer called Disorder that you should watch. This holocron contained information of all the Force sensitives that the Jedi deemed unworthy. He was eventually defeated and imprisoned by the Alliance commander, but he does tell a vision of a galaxy in flames and says that this is only the beginning. But unfortunately, that is as far as the Old Republic storyline has taken us so far. So, hopefully we'll know more about this galaxy in flames soon. So anyways, as the end of the bulk of the Old Republic content. At least for now. We know that eventually the Sith Empire is gone by around 3000 BBY. And in 2000 BBY, the Sith re-emerge, and 1000 years of conflict ensue. The Sith during that period are, like usual, held back by their infighting. But eventually, in 1000 BBY, Darth Bane creates the Rule of Two, limiting the number of Sith to one master and one apprentice. And the Sith exist in secret, and the Jedi go complacent. And from there, we know a story of their emergence and revenge of the Sith as the Skywalker Saga. So it all kind of culminates with this. So, but anyways, let's hope that we continue to get more Old Republic content and move forward the timeline to bridge the gap and learn the fate of the current war of the Empire versus the Republic. So anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of this video. I think this is probably the hardest video I've had to research and write a script for so far, just because there's like so much content to like try to distill down and like also keep track of and like, you know, try to include all the different timelines for and all the different events. So let me know if you think I missed anything important. It's entirely possible that I did. So let me know down in the comments below. And hopefully you guys are super excited to jump into a lot more Old Republic content, because like I said, this was just a summary that sort of scratched the surface and gave you like a general idea of the full, you know, thousands of years timeline. So I'm very excited to make more content on this era, and if you want more Star Wars lore ASMR content, I'll put a link in the description below to the previous one, which was the Obi-Wan Kenobi character bio and life story, which is pre-show, and the next lore video will be Darth Vader, which will include the contents of the Obi-Wan show. So go check out that lore video if you're interested, and look forward to the Darth Vader one coming soon. So anyways, like always, I hope you guys have enjoyed,